I went through the front door, my tie loosened after a hard day at the office, my shoulders heavy from staring at spreadsheets and dodging emails. The house smelled like Marissa's lavender candles, the kind she lights when she's feeling smug or when she wants to pretend everything's fine. I flung my keys onto the counter, and that's when I saw it. A clean white receipt glaring up at me like it owned the place. $2,500, not a typo, not a smudge, not some random writing. The emblem at the top read Le Seraphine, the nice French bistro, downtown. The one where the waiters stare at you like you're garbage if you don't pronounce the menu right. My stomach twisted. We hadn't been there together in months. Maybe a year. I grabbed it, my fingers wiping across the paper, and turned to Marissa, who was leaning against the kitchen island, sipping red wine like she was casting for a movie. "What's this?" I asked, holding it up. My voice was steady, but vibrating with something I couldn't name yet. She barely looked at me, just swirled the wine in her glass and shrugged. "It's just one dinner." "Don't be petty," she said, her tone cutting, like I was the one being ridiculous. "Petty? Me?" I felt the heat rise up my neck, but before I could even open my mouth, Talia's voice cut in from the living room. She was splayed on the couch, feet up, browsing her phone like she belonged here. Yeah, it was a family celebration, she added without even looking my way, her words dripping with that faux innocence she's so good at. Family celebration. The words hit me like a punch, because I hadn't been invited. No text, no call, not even a, "Hey, we're doing this, join if you want?" Nothing, but here was this bill, laying on my counter, in my house, attached to my card, like I was some silent supporter for their good time. I stood there, the receipt crinkling in my hand, looking between them, Marissa with her wine, Talia with her smirk. And something clicked. They didn't just expect me to pay. They figured I'd lay over and take it, like always. I'd been the man who paid for the Wi-Fi they used to stream their shows, the guy who covered the groceries they ate, the guy who never asked too many questions, because I trusted Marissa, trusted us. Yet this was different. This wasn't a forgotten, "Oh, I'll Venmo you later." This was $2,500 of deliberate, in-my-face contempt. I could feel my jaw tighten, my pulse thudding in my ears, and I knew they saw it too, the shift in my eyes, the way my shoulders squared up. Marissa arched an eyebrow, waiting for me to blow up, maybe curse, storm out like some predictable sitcom spouse, but I didn't. Instead, I grinned. Not a big grin, just a slow, tight one, the kind that says, "I'm done playing nice." "Oh, you want to see petty?" My voice was low, almost a giggle. Marissa halted, mid-sip, her glass hovering above her lips. "And Talia?" She finally looked up from her phone, her head twisting like she wasn't sure she'd heard me right. I didn't wait for them to answer. I folded the receipt, placed it into my pocket, and strolled, past them to the fridge. Took out a bottle, cracked it open, like nothing had transpired. But inside, my head was racing. $2,500 wasn't just a meal. It was a line they'd crossed, a big, fat marker they'd drawn, without even asking. And they thought I'd let it slide? No. I took a long swallow and leaned against the counter, watching them. Marissa laid her glass down, her eyes narrowing, trying to figure out if I was bluffing. Talia went back to her phone, maybe texting someone about how theatrical I was being. But I wasn't being dramatic. Not yet. I was calm. Too calm, maybe. And that's what worried them. They didn't know it, but that receipt, it wasn't just a bill. It was the start of something, a spark, a promise, and I was about to show them exactly what petty looks like. I nodded, trusting him to locate what I couldn't. He went into my account. I'd given him the password on the way over and started cross-checking dates, merchants, anything that stood out. While he worked, I paced the room, my head racing. I kept seeing Marissa's fancy handbags, the ones she'd started carrying a few months back. Gucci, Prada, items I didn't even know how to pronounce. She brushed it off when I questioned her, stated they were presents or on sale. I bought it then, too exhausted to push, but now it didn't add up. Carlos clicked away, murmuring to himself, then stopped. Here, he said, pointing at the screen, recurring transfers, little ones concealed under miscellaneous. They were going to a separate account. My stomach fell. What account? I asked, stepping closer. He traced it. A savings account I didn't recognize, opened in Marissa's name. The title popped up in the notes, Females Only, Bali, 2025. I stared at it, the words scorching into me. A vacation fund. She'd been siphoning money bit by bit for a trip I wasn't part of. Again. Carlos leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. She's smart about it, he remarked, keeping it under the radar, nothing significant enough to flag unless you're searching. But that was deliberate. That dinner, only the tip of it. I nodded, my hands curling into fists. Intentional. That's what got me. Not the money, not even the trip, but the planning. She'd sat across from me at dinner, smiled at me over coffee, all while funneling cash into her small escape plot. And Talia, she was definitely in on it, egging her on, maybe even pitching in, with her own crises I'd covered. I thought about the time she'd stolen my card for gas, or neglected her wallet at lunch. How many of those were lies, too? I thanked Carlos, begged him to keep it quiet, and drove home with my head buzzing. The home was dark when I arrived. Marissa was out, probably with Talia. Spending more of my money, on God knows what. I didn't switch on the lights. I went right to the bedroom, ripped open her closet, and started looking. There they were. The purses, lined up like trophies. I didn't touch them, just stared, counting, 5, maybe 6, all new, since last summer. I checked the tag, still dangling from one $200. Another had a receipt wrapped within, $1,900, my money, her treasures. I closed the door, went back to the kitchen, poured a whiskey, not to calm down, to think. I needed a strategy, something firm. Anything that couldn't flip back on me. The audit wasn't just numbers anymore. It was proof. Proof Marissa had been playing me for months, maybe longer. Proof Talia wasn't just a freeloader, but a partner in it. I sipped the whiskey, the burn. Steadying me, I got out my phone, texted Neil, found more. It's worse than the dinner, he answered swiftly. Told you. War? Sure. War, but not the loud sort. Not yet. I wasn't going to storm in and rant about handbags or Bali. That's what they'd expect. What they'd use. To paint me as the evil guy. No, I'd be colder than that. I'd hit them where it hurt. Where? They felt safe. The joint account. The cards. The trust they assumed I'd never pull back. They didn't know it yet, but I was done being their ghost bank. I finished the whiskey, laid the glass down, and grinned to myself, not a cheerful smile. Sharp one. The audit was complete. The war had just begun.